Nice to meet you all. I'm Donna, co-founder of Wavio. We have two amazing hosts for today's session. Erin Conrad, who's been hosting our workshop for some time, and she's also been part of Wavio's pilot. And Beth Deir from Chesapeake, Virginia. I'm sure some of you know them because they've been mentors with MCP for some time. And Beth also was part of the pilot in Chesapeake. So I'm sure you Chesapeake people will be happy to see her, and you can reach out to her probably afterwards. Great. So with that, I'm going to start. And our agenda for today is going to be, we're going to do welcomes and introductions. Beth is going to talk a little bit about the teacher side of Wavio. And Erin is going to talk a little bit about the student side and how to set up. She's going to do a little demo of how to set up your trackers. We then, if I am going to manage the technical challenge, I'm going to split into groups where you could ask us questions, and then afterwards we'll do Q&A and closing. What you see here on the right of this slide are stickers that we are going to give away as prizes for some of you lucky winners that are going to fill out the survey. There's going to be a survey in the end, and I really would appreciate if you could fill it out, and then you could win those lovely stickers. And with that, I'm going to start the session and introduction. So I'm Donna Kravchik. It says doctor because I did research in neuroscience in my training before I switched to education. And I'm your co-founder, and you can reach out to me via email, schedule time to talk to me, whatever you'd like. All of this information is going to be at the end of the slideshow, which we will share with you. And today with me are hosting two amazing science teachers. We've got Erin Conrad from California and Beth Deir from Virginia. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Erin. So, Erin, please go ahead.
My name is Erin Conrad. I teach 7th and 8th grade science at a middle school in Santa Rosa, California. I've been a modern classroom implementer for about 5 years now. I've been a mentor for about 3 years. When I heard about this pilot, I was really interested in having a way for students to help manage their progress through a digital platform. So I'm very excited to be here and help out with all you getting on board.
Thank you, Erin.
Hey there, folks. My name is Beth Deir. I teach 7th grade life science in Chesapeake, Virginia at Hickory Middle School. I just finished up my 25th year, and I can't wait for year 26. Like Erin mentioned, I became interested in the Wavio tracker when I heard about it because I did use the modern classroom auto updating spreadsheet, and it was a time suck. So when the pilot program started, I was watching and learning, but the teacher interface was what was being used. And as soon as that student interface opened up this past winter, I jumped on board. I have been a modern classroom teacher for the last 2 years. I've been mentoring with MCP for the last year, and I really love it. I think 25 years of teaching, different methodologies come and go, but I really enjoy what modern classroom has to offer our students, and the Wavio tracker makes it so much more doable, and it's manageable, and it is a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Beth. So with that, Beth, I can stop sharing my screen where you can start sharing the teacher side and tell us a little bit about that. Is that
Sure.
okay?
Sure.
Okay, awesome.
I'm gonna tell a little bit of a history. So this is what the old school tracker looked like. It was a ginormous Google Sheet, and if you can see across the top, those are all the activities that the teacher has to input. It's got due dates, assignment names, the categories, and this is from 2 years ago. 2 years, not this past school year, but the year prior. So I've got an old list of students in here. The assignments don't show any progress because they were linked up with our Canvas course, which is gone. There were some benefits. I'm not going to say this was the worst thing ever. I could group students. I could take a glance to see where they were. I could group kids based on ability. I could group kids based on their progress. What I was doing for the kids was creating a playlist like this. So while that giant spreadsheet was my tracker, this is what the students were using to keep track of their progress. And it had all of the lessons, assignments, categories, due dates. And then over here on the far right column, the kids could toggle whether they had not started the assignment, whether it was in progress, whether they were revising it, etc. But even though that was really nice, it was limiting. So then comes along Dana and her Wavio. Pardon me while I transition here. So the Wavio tracker looks a little bit different. Everybody is frozen on my screen. Okay, are you there?
I can see you.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Sorry, everything was frozen for me. Let me open this up. Wavio tracker. And I started using this tracker just in January with my students. So we had unit 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let me see if I can make that a little bigger. What I'm going to do is just kind of quickly show you how I use this Wavio. And I'm going to focus on my animal kingdom unit, unit 7. So these units that are here, over here, I have included lessons. Collapse this down. So within each unit, I've got lessons, right? My animal kingdom unit had 3 instructional lessons, and then the final lesson was based on review. And when I build my lessons inside Wavio, it's super duper user friendly. So one of the benefits is that it's very easy to organize. If I don't like the sequencing, I can drag and reorganize. Just like that, and it renumbers everything for me. But for consistency's sake, I number everything. And luckily, the Wavio matches my numbering system by unit, lesson, and activity. But if I needed to add something to it, it's easy enough. I can just drop a new assignment in there. I can delete one. But when I add my assignments in, I have an option to mark them as must-dos, should-dos, or aspire-to-dos. These buttons over here allow me to track that later on. I can use the tab over here to set up my due dates, suggested due dates. And for me, I always use due dates for my must-dos. I have 2 levels of classes. I have advanced life science and I have a core life science. So what I can do is export one, import it into another, and make any changes between my 2 different courses. Within my courses, I have my classes where my students are rostered. So I can take a look at my students to see where are they in the whole progress.
Beth, can you make it smaller?
Yes,
Good. Yeah,
better?
awesome.
Okay.
Yes. You can also click on the 3 lines to the left of Wavio to make the screen larger for everybody.
So over here, moving my chat. This is based on a unit that I worked on. This was the last part of the school year. This was actual students. I'm keeping their confidentiality by only using first name, last initial. But when I take a look, I can see where my students are in the class at any given point. Down below, I've got students who've reached an expert level. And oftentimes I would broadcast this lesson tracker on my smartboard, now Boxlight. So when the students are working, they can glance up and see who else is on that same assignment, who would be a good partner, who are the experts who know what's up. If I'm unavailable, they can turn to the experts or the star students. My kids get to wear a little badge once they earn that expert level, and they get to help out around the classroom. At the end of a class, when I'm checking their students' work, Wavio is not a grade book, but it is a progress tracker. So once I assess the work, I go in and I'm able to mark things. Sometimes I can mark it off with a whole click of the class. Just click up here. I can set all to any of these, or I can individually go box by box and mark my students off. These are benefits. It is very easy to organize. It is exceptionally easy to reorganize if there is a need for that. Go back over here.
I think someone raised hand. Do you want to ask?
Certainly.
Or I can't see. Oh, feel free to mute and ask, Michelle. Go ahead, Beth.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question about that?
Yes.
I've used it in my classroom last year and I haven't really used it since all the updates. And so super excited about the updates. When you just had your class tracker with the grading,
Yes.
did it show your must do's, should do's, and aspire to do's? No. Is there a setting you have to do to show the should do, or wait, do you have that clicked as if like you have to grade that one?
Everything shows up for me as the teacher. Is that true? That's not true.
Like,
Everything
you
shows up for the
mark it?
students,
Yes.
but things that I want to keep track of, I can adjust. So I
So
have
your
certain
should do
things.
has that as a target, so that way you can use that as your public tracker because it's showing everything just how they see it as well,
Yes,
not just the must do's that you're like taking grades on.
that is correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mhm. And one thing that I learned, as students are working on self-paced activities, I've had to incentivize a few things, and I don't often keep track on the tracker of who's finished, but my students know that if they do those assignments and they do well, there's a little something extra. So I do maintain a clipboard in my classroom where students can come show me their optional work assignments, unless it's something that's digital that I can grade that way. So there is a really nice opportunity to do this at a glance tracking, but privately, as the teacher, when I take a look at my class tracker, one thing that I think is invaluable is that it also keeps track of how many attempts students have made on their assignments. So for example, if there was a student who didn't do well on a quick check, let's say Emily needs to revise it, I could go in there, and one thing that I always do is add feedback. Anytime the kids have to revise something, or if they didn't meet the expectations, I can go in and edit so that it might say, be sure to read the attached article. And then once I do that, when Emily is at home later on in the evening, or if Emily's mom's looking over her shoulder going, hey, what wasn't so great about that assignment, she would be able to see that asynchronous feedback that's left in the Wavio tracker. It's a really useful tool to keep track of how many times have students attempted assignments, how did they do each time, and then I think Erin will talk about the student side. You might notice that some of these boxes are half shaded. That comes up from the student side of the tracker. But everything is color coded. The kids get used to it quite quickly. They know that the must do, the should do, and aspire to do deals. But for me as a teacher, usually I reduce the columns like this. We all use this numbering system in my classroom, so everybody knows what the assignments are. On their note page, it has the actual number as well as the title of the assignment. So I think organizing my Canvas course the same way Wavio is organized and vice versa has been very useful for students. All right, for me in Chesapeake, Wavio is accessible through Clever, and I'm able to pull my student rosters right from there. I could manually enter things if I needed to, but the rostering system through Clever works very well.
I'm going to jump in because we are moving into a system where you just give kids the code, just like in Google Classroom. And basically they can sign in with whatever the school district uses. So if it's Clever, they're Clever credentials. So that's going to make it a lot easier because we've seen cases of duplicates. So this is going to eliminate this. So rostering coming forward is going to be, you walk into class period, you give the kids the specific class code, and then they go to pulse.mywavio.com, they log in, they sign up as a student, and they put in the code, and then it automatically populates your classroom.
I wanted to make sure that if I haven't said it already, the Wavio tracker is linked to my Canvas courses. It's linked in a couple of different ways. When the students get to my homepage for the day, they can click right here and it brings them right over to Wavio. So we don't have to go to so many different places. I've created an access button for them. But inside Canvas, all of their assignments, sorry, this is a Spanish language one. I'm trying to shut this. All of their assignments, the must-dos, the should-dos, the aspire-to-dos, they're numbered the same way, but I'm able to actually take the link, if I right-click and go copy link address, back over here in my over here in Wavio, all of these assignments are linked back to Canvas. So that's something that once I create my list of activities in Wavio, I link every assignment back in to Canvas. So the students can actually click on the assignment.
Can you show them how it looks like?
Okay, hang on. This.
To the right of the,
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. But we recently changed the way this looks like. So
I copy the assignment activity link and I just drop it right in here and save it. So everything that is here, kids can click on it, go back to Canvas, and it's in Canvas where they would find the longer set of directions or the additional video to watch or the additional reference to go to the back of the room and pick up the corresponding worksheet. So that linking feature is invaluable. It is a great time saver. So that brings me to my recommendations. Add links for your students. Use the whole class as your public tracker to display who's working on what. As a teacher, I do highly recommend that you review your students' work in a timely manner so that you can give them actionable feedback. Some students maintain bizarre hours, whether it's because of practices or rehearsals or whatnot, or maybe they've got babysitting jobs after school and they might not get to their work right after school, but a parent might be curious. Parents can access the Wavio too and read the comments. I think the quicker that I can assess things and update it, the better prepared I am for the students when I see them next time. I'm lucky though that my students generally come to my class 3 days a week. So I'm not updating the tracker every single day. I am giving them feedback so that when they come back to class and we're all together, we can just kind of check in and move forward from there.
you're doing great.
All right.
All right. Awesome. Is it a good time to move to Erin? Awesome. Perfect. So go ahead. Thank you so much, Beth. This is great.
You're welcome.
A couple of questions that have come up just in the chat that I want to make sure everybody sees is like this idea of linking. Wavio does not automatically update if you update your LMS, whether it's Google or Canva or Schoology. When Beth was using the word link, she's talking about actually posting the URL of the assignment into an activity on Wavio. So in my class, when the students click on the link in Wavio, it actually takes them back to Schoology. And so I tend to use Schoology, which I have for my LMS, as like a filing cabinet of here's where I put all of the stuff. Wavio is the way that they access it. So when my students log in to Wavio, they're going to go to the same pulse.mywavio.com that we went to, but they're going to log in as a student. And let's see here. Okay, so this is what it might look like for a student. So they see the entire list of assignments that I've put into the tracker. When Beth was showing us her tracker and we saw the class tracker, we only got to see the assignments that Beth marked as those that she wanted to track. I don't want to track every single student's every single assignment my students do, but when students log in, they do see all of them. So they're in sequential numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The view that they have here gives us some idea of where they're at and what they need to do. And there is a ton of information on this page. So it starts off with what lesson and unit they're in. So this was unit 4.5 or lesson 4.5. The little map marker shows us what they're working on. The fact that this is grayed out means that this student has already checked it off. So if I check off that I finished an assignment, it will turn that to gray and it will move my marker down. If I accidentally mark that off as a student, I can uncheck it and I can go back and mark it incomplete. When I look over here on the right-hand side, I see some icons and colors. There's the icons that show us like M for must do, but you'll notice that this one has a ring around it. That ring indicates that that's something that the teacher is tracking. The teacher's not tracking this one, but she is tracking that one. You'll also notice that the icon here for notes or for assignment is gray, but this one is blue. The difference is the blue one, I've added a link. So if I click on either one of these, it'll show the instructions, whatever description I've put in. Read and discuss this activity and then answer the questions. But when I click on the one that has the blue highlight, it also shows the link. Now, I didn't label my URL, and you can see where it might be helpful to add a label to the URL so it's not just this long gobbledygook. If it comes up as, News ELA article, then it might make more sense to students. This might take them in, here's one that I've labeled, the Murder Hornet Collection. And this will take them either into a URL from somewhere on the internet, like a YouTube video, an ed puzzle, some other outside source. It could link directly to a doc or a file if I want the students to look at like a Google Doc or something that I have in my drive. And it can also link to the URL of an assignment in my projects or my Canva or my Google Classroom. When I click off these as a student, they'll turn gray. When I get to one that is progress monitored by the teacher, when I click it off, notice that it pops up this bubble that has 3 dots in it. On the other side, on the teacher side, when I see that happening, now I see that this student has marked off that they have finished this assignment. The gray / triangle tells me that the student has finished. So one thing that comes up a lot is, okay, so it's great that the students can move through the progress tracker. What keeps them from just clicking all of them and saying, I'm done? The progress tracker doesn't automatically mark that they've mastered the assignment. It just indicates with the gray triangle as a flag to the teacher, this student says that they're done, you need to go check their work. So now I'm going to go check whatever that is, whether it's a piece of paper, it's a document that they've submitted, it's something that they show me, it doesn't matter. I need to still check that. And when I check it, then I can mark, is it mastered? Do they need revision? Is it incomplete? I can also add a comment. So if I want to give the student feedback, maybe I'll say, this needs revision. My feedback is make sure that you respond in a complete sentence with evidence. And then I'll click save. That marks it now with the yellow with the little swirly arrow for Mateo. And since I'm logged in as Mateo on my other screen, I now have as Mateo a icon here that is a yellow chat bubble. So it's got the yellow swirl and then it's a little chat bubble, and that tells Mateo that his teacher has left him feedback. And if he clicks on it, it shows the feedback. Make sure that you respond in a complete sentence with evidence. When Mateo goes back and does that, he can mark it off again, and it will flag it again for me, and then I can review it, and either I can mark it as mastered, or we can keep going around in this circle as long as we need to, in order to make sure that Mateo is mastering each of these things. One thing that I have over here is I've posted due dates for each assignment. These are soft due dates. They are suggestions, so that every student knows where they should be by the end of class on that day. All right, what questions do we need to answer?
We have a question from Marcy in the chat. If student access the actual assignments or links from a playlist, should resources also be linked in Wavio?
So I link it in every place possible so that students can access it in every way that they need to. So I would start off by maybe building my class in my LMS, and then building my class in Wavio with the same assignments, and then copying and pasting all of the information. So it's cross-posted in both locations. There's a lot of teachers who feel like that's a lot of extra work, so they don't put any descriptions or any links in. And that's another way to use it. And they just, have the students practice. This is for progress tracking. If you need to access the assignment, look for the same label in our LMS.
We have more question. Lisa, is there a way to share on pace, ahead of pace, or behind pace to parents through Wavio? Maybe you guys want to say how you do it.
Well, as of right now, my students are the primary audience for this tracker. And when I notice that a student has gotten behind pace, I will first have a conversation with them. I teach middle school. And then if that continues to be an issue, then I'm going to communicate to the parents about that directly. Parents don't have a unique login. If they wanted to log in as their child, I coach them at the beginning of the school year that they should check in with their student with their Wavio login and see that together. There's nothing that would prevent a parent from logging in as a student, but they don't have a unique, special login like they do in some of the other LMS systems.
Yeah, thank you. Next question. Does this prevent students from moving through and not going back? You mentioned that the students going back and correcting based on feedback, but are they prevented from just ignoring the feedback? Well, you guys practice this every day, so you know best. I'm gonna let you answer. So how do students respond when you give them the revise? Basically the tracker pulls them back to the activity that they marked as checked. And now they have to redo it. It becomes blue again, and they need to access it and redo it. And so what's the interaction like when you get to this stage?
My students, again, 7th grade, learned by, I would say, from September to Halloween time, what this is all about. And then they were really good at self-regulating and even helping each other out. That, they know I haven't done something well. They can check the feedback I've given them asynchronously. They can talk with me in the classroom and find out what should I do. Or maybe it's one of those things where it was like a common problem and I've got to address the whole group. Hey guys, let's take a break. This assignment right here is a little bit tricky. Be sure you do X, Y, and Z if you're somebody who needs to revise it. And the classroom culture has shifted because of the self-paced, mastery-based learning. And it's really amazing to watch the kids help each other the right way. It's not just like, hey, Johnny, here's my answer. They're like, no, don't forget, the stomata have to be open for this process to happen. And it's really nice to hear the purposeful conversations when kids are helping each other. Another thing I do to prevent kids from speeding through things is that even though they've got access to everything, they can see the whole unit in their Wavio. I don't publish everything in Canvas. So sometimes those quick kids might get to a point where they click on something and then it's like, Ms. Deir, it's locked. It won't let me do it. And that's when I look at the child and say, well, let me, take a look at your work. Why don't you take a break? Why don't you have a 5-minute free time? And, you know, what kid is going to say no to that? So usually I know where everyone is. And if it's a point where I don't want them to go further, I just turn off the assignments. Problem solved.
I'm going to share my screen one more time, just so we look at what it looks like from the lesson tracker. A lot of times in my class, when we start class, maybe we'll do a whole class activity. When it's time for the students to work independently, I'll put this up on the screen and I will go through like, okay, so if you are Kayleen and Will, you need to be working on this assignment. If you are the people in this column, you need to be working on assignment 7. If you're these people, you need to be working on assignment 9. Lucas and Perla, it says that you need to revise that. Why don't you come check in with me and make sure you know what you're doing? That conversation helps orient students to where they need to be. There's a question that came up in the chat from John. Do we find that Wavio has improved student engagement through assignment completion and feedback? I see students wanting to check the boxes, and like, it's kind of like when you make the turn in the queue at Disneyland, like you get a little bit closer, you're like, oh, I've made the turn. Oh boy, I got the next thing. Something that I've done is I've installed a extension in Chrome that is an auto refresh, and I set it to every like 30 or 60 seconds. And what that does is if I leave this screen up on my classroom TV, every 60 seconds it refreshes. And as students have checked themselves off on different tasks, it's moved them across the columns kids are working on and where they're at. And so like if I see Kayleen is still sitting on the same assignment 20 minutes later, I'm going to go check in with her. Hey, Kayleen, are you actually done with this thing and you just forgot to hit the button? Or are you still working on it? What do you need? So having the lesson tracker posted in class, like publicly, really helps keep students moving. It also gets to the point where it's like, if I see Kayleen and Will are really struggling, I can look at who I've marked as experts and I'm like, hey, why don't you go talk to Lorenzo? He did really well on this assignment. He really got it. And maybe he can offer you some support on how it worked, because Lorenzo probably finished his work a little bit earlier than everybody else. So he's ready to help other people. That's one way that we can use those early finishers and make sure that they're being leveraged to do the support in the classroom. And then there was another question. Can students access videos through Wavio? The Wavio is really just the holder of the URLs. So the URL takes you to wherever you would post the video, whether it's YouTube, Edpuzzle, your LMS, whichever place you hold those.
What's the maximum number of assignments that you can have listed? I posted earlier, like I sometimes last year had students that were in like small little groups, but they were so far apart that on the auto updating tracker spreadsheet, I couldn't display them both at the same time. Is there like a workaround for that sort of thing in Wavio?
Erin, can you show the compact view?
Yeah, give me a second.
Thanks. There is a way.
The public, the one that the kids would be able to see.
Yeah. There is a way where you could remove columns where you already labeled everybody as mastered or they completed that assignment. It's called the compact view. It's basically this little button where all the arrows turn inside to make it smaller. I can show it as well, Erin. And oh, here we go.
But that's only on the class tracker.
The lesson tracker is automatically on the minimal view.
Yeah.
So basically, if your kids are really, really spread apart, then the only way to expand this is by clicking on those 3 rows and making it go. Or removing activity names like Beth showed earlier, and basically just shows the numbers. So those are 2 ways to make it more compact. With just the numbers, I think it would probably be over 10 columns at least. Are we good to move into the demo? Because I think we're getting close to the end of the session. Oh, Kimberly.
Real quick, I was curious, that on pace, is that according to the date? Is that automatic, or did you put that on pace on there?
No, that's based on the schedule that I set for that class.
So the due dates. Do you mean that by schedule, due dates?
Yes. it's
Yeah,
due dates.
So if I click on, if I'm in class setup where I've labeled the assignments and created all of my work, the one of the tabs, when I click on the course name, so like Science 7, I had the course where I was building all of my assignments. The next tab over is schedule, and that is where I can put in a due date. If I have multiple sections of the same class, I can make the same due date for all of them. Or if I want this one's due on Thursday and that one's due on Friday, I can change those. I don't have to put due dates in, but if I put due dates in, it shows up for the kids, and that's what tags it as on pace or behind pace.
Okay, so do you know if there's a way I could move that on pace if I don't have due dates on, like, sometimes I have 4 items that are due in 3 days, so to speak. I don't want to put
That's
a due date on
possible.
all of them, but I kind of want to put an on pace of where they should be. So I can move that on pace where I want to.
Yeah.
It's not movable, but once you add the dates, it accepts it as the on pace. So basically, if you have 4 things on the same due date, just put the same due date on those 4 things, and that blue box will expand to include all 4.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to the demo. Thank you.
Okay, so what we want to do is show you very quickly how to get set up and then let you have time to just play and ask questions. So the website to log in is pulse.mywavio.com. And I can throw that in the chat. And you can choose to log in whatever way, shape, or form that it makes you happy. If you've never logged in before, there's a little button on the bottom that says sign up, and it'll ask you to choose if you're a student or you're a teacher. And then you can choose to enter your name, your email address, your password, or you can log in with Google, you can log in with Clever, whatever makes you happy. And then when you get logged in, you'll be automatically directed to, in the upper right-hand corner, click the plus button, and it'll say create course. So just a little bit of vocabulary. Course is the overarching description. So like 7th grade science. Within courses, we have classes, period 1, period 2, period 3. So to start with, you create a course. And
I can
course,
share my screen to kind of show
Okay.
people, or if you have it open on your end.
so when I first log in, I'm going to come up to the upper right-hand corner and click the plus button that says create course. I'm going to give the course a name. I'm just going to give it a sample course and click add. So here's my sample course. If I have multiple sections of that course, I can click the plus button here, and it could say period 1 and maybe period 2. And you can see that I have my 2 classes here. Now I don't have anything set up yet because I need some activities. So I'm going to go to course and start adding content. So the first content that I want to add is a unit. So imagine unit is the big umbrella that houses lessons. Lessons are mini umbrellas that house all of the activities. So my first unit might be about asteroid impacts. I can add more units as I want. So this is unit 2. There's also shortcuts, which are like option U for unit if you want to go fast. Within my unit now, like asteroid impacts, I want to add a lesson. Shortcut is option L. My first unit is about evidence of past impacts. So I'm going to click where it says asteroid impacts to select the unit and then add another lesson. Maybe this one's about Newton's laws. And then one more that's about gravity. So I'm going to double click in here. Just kidding. I can delete the lesson and try again. Gravity. There you go. So now these are my lessons that are going to hold all of the individual activities. So again, I click on the lesson, click on the plus button, add activity. And my first activity might be to watch a video. The next activity might be to take notes. There's a lab. There's some cool extension, and there's the mastery check. Over here on the right-hand side are all of my fancy buttons that Beth was showing earlier. I can label these of what activity type they are. I can make them must do, should do's, or aspire to do's. This is what we were talking about, toggling tracking. So right now I am tracking as the teacher all of these, but frankly, I don't want to keep track of whether or not they watched the video and whether or not they kept notes. The student tracker would show all 5. And then if I wanted to add the description, watch this video and take notes, here's where I would add the links. So if I open up like my Schoology or my Canva, I can find the URL for that assignment, copy and paste it into here, label it so that the students know what it is, and then they can use it from there. So your job right now is to log into Wavio and to create a class and start playing around with adding some assignments.
Awesome. I think because we're so late in the hour, I don't know if we should open small groups. Let's just let everybody play around. If you have questions, ask us around over here. Because I don't want to ask you to move to small groups and then take the time on just moving around.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Teaching 6th grade science, and we have 7 units. So if I was setting it up, would I make, for example, unit 1 is our Earth and Space unit. Do I make that, Earth and Space systems? My first lesson would then be on early astronomy. And then I could go into, things that happen within the space age, or then I can go into eclipses. So it's like one big unit, and then within it, I break it down that way. It's like 6 weeks.
Each of my units is the whole trimester. So
Okay.
I have, typically it's 5 lessons within a unit. And then within the lesson, there can be anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 activities.
Okay. I didn't know if I needed to break it again. Go down. Okay, good. That helps. Thank you.
Mary Ellen?
Yeah, that's just kind of what I've been grappling with, and poor Dana's been trying to help me, because normally I think of it as I have 3 trimesters. Each trimester has an overarching topic like the Harlem Renaissance. And then each unit is like, the first one is on the historical background. The second one is on the Great Migration specifically. And the third one is really centered in the Harlem Renaissance or whatever. So I guess I need to think of it as just keep doing units under a course and just give them some name that instantly shows me, like HR for Harlem Renaissance, and then flip over to the next unit that way, I guess.
I mean, I can show you like my entire class from last year. It'll be a little inaccurate because it's last year, but so these are the same students all year long, right? In my 7th grade science class, or my 8th grade science class. We start with a unit 0 or a welcome to science. And then we have 3 big units, and each one of these units is essentially a trimester long.
Okay.
Then within the unit, let me collapse this down. I have an introduction that, is like the project introduction and kind of like the intro launch task. And then there's 3 lessons that are each going to take 2-3 weeks to complete. So if I open up an ancient puzzle, these are all of the assignments that students are going to do over the course of the next 3 weeks.
Okay, that makes sense.
So imagine like a lesson is,
The
for
unit
example,
is going to be module for me. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
one thing we didn't really talk about very much, let's see, where is it back here, is, like right now I have my units labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. So it might be helpful to label that as a 0. And this is something that came up earlier in the chat. There's some personalization that you can do. Under my icon up here in the upper right, under settings, I can change the course labels so that I can identify how I want the units to be labeled. Do I want them numbers? Do I want them Roman numerals? Do I want them letters? And where do I want them to start? Do I want it to start like my unit is 0? And then I can do the same thing for lessons. Maybe instead of numbers, I want them to be letters. And then I can do activity labels. There's quite a few of us that don't use must do, should do, aspire to do. We've changed it to like mild, medium, and spicy. You can change that label here. So this might be mild, medium, and spicy, but you would need to change M and S to like, I don't know, med, and then S for spicy. And that would change the labels that the students see, that you see on your side, so that it matches more what your style is. So here it is. It changed to M for medium, med for spicy. I could see where maybe we'd want to use 2 letters instead of 3 letters.
Yeah, 2 letters works better. You can also go to the course settings right over here, and you have the same option to change. When you set it through your profile, it would change it for all your courses to be exactly the same. If you want to do differentiated labels for every course, you could do it over here. I think we have Marcy.
Hi, thanks for the great information. If I post my unit and my lessons and my activities in the beginning of the year, but I don't want students going to them until it's time, is there a way to shut that off or to make it so students can't see it?
Yeah, absolutely. When you're in schedule, the first row of the unit has a little bit of an eye icon. So here I am in my demo, and this is schedule. And you see this little eye icon. When it's not crossed, the kids can see the unit. When it's crossed, they don't see it. You should check. I think by default it's crossed because it expects you to build it, but check when you're working on it. So again, when it's crossed, the kids don't see it. Uncrossed, they see it. If you're building a new lesson and it's for this unit, you can build it in a new unit and just move it along. And so you can build it in a hidden unit, but then move it to the one that everybody sees afterwards. Does that answer the question? All right, awesome.
Points out, and this is like super important, I think, that you can use emojis as your icons for must do, should do, aspire to. I feel like that's really important to know.
Which tabs share the screen? I'm not sure I understand.
That was from a little bit ago. We were talking about the difference between like looking at the lesson tracker versus the class tracker. So the lesson tracker shows by lesson where every student is. The class tracker is where I can look at each student individually to see what they've mastered, what they still need to work on, what they need to revise.
I'm also going to take the opportunity to share that we do have a new grouping feature. It's partially out and part of it is still under construction.
I think what she was going to say was that we're working on ways. Is she back?
I'm sorry.
There you are. Hi.
There I am. Sorry about that. The tabs. So I'll share with you the grouping feature real quick, so you could take a look. Sorry for dropping out of the conversation unexpectedly. If I go to a roster of mine, let's say I'm going to go to the pilot group. I'm going to go to the groups tab. I can add groups by just clicking on these 2 people's icon here. And then I'm going to tell it group randomly or group by closest progress. Randomly is going to be vertical and closest progress is horizontal. The closest progress is still under construction, so you'll get this pop up, but the randomly is actually going to group them randomly. And you see the names of the students here. And then actually it's going to show up on the class tracker over here. And as well, it's going to show up on the students tracker so they know exactly they are associated with group number 4, for example, for this student. Any questions on that? No. Anybody has any other questions? Can you specify groups? Actually, I'm not sure because it's very, very new. I think you can. Yeah, you can. Let me show you. So, all right. So I am sharing my screen. I don't need to share my screen again. All right. So let's say I'm going to now delete all my groups. Okay. Delete groups. All right. So I have no groups right now, but I have all my students. And now I'm going to create a new group. Where is that new group? It's somewhere over here. Group 2. I can just drag and drop students into that group. Do you see that? It's all the way in the bottom. Essentially, the answer is yes, you can. Thumbs up, everybody got me. Stop explaining. Any other questions? Comments? We're almost, yeah, we're at time. Erin, Beth, anything you'd like to share before I move back to the slides and give everyone the links and the contacts? No. All right, thank you, everybody. So I'm going to share instead the slides. 1 second. Yes, I'm going to share the slides, and I would really appreciate it if you can fill out the survey. I'm going to put this survey link in here. 1 sec. So you can actually, yeah, so I'm going to put all my contact information in the chat, and then I'm going to add the link to the survey. So please, yes, and this is also slides if you want them. Katie, do you have a question? Please go ahead.
Can you do that in Wavio as well?
Can you clarify? I'm not sure.
I know what she means. Like in Canva, you can make it so that students have to create assignment number 1 before they can access assignment number 2. And like there's a progress like that. There's nothing like that in Wavio, but because I, as the teacher, can see globally what everybody's doing. If I see a kid has clicked off that they've completed assignment number 10 before they've completed assignment number 1, I'm going to have a one-on-one conversation with them about what we're doing and why we're doing it. In my experience, kids tend to go to the next thing in the list just very naturally. It guides them through it so obviously that it's really intuitive to just click on the next thing.
I actually want to add something about this as well. So when we designed the platform, we based it on a lot of research, some meta-analysis from John Hattie's visible learning work. And we wanted to enable kids to see everything that's ahead for them. So they feel they own this learning. They see the path of what they're doing. Now, the location icon is always going to show them what they're supposed to work on. And every time they log in, log out, or join that session, it will take them exactly where they're supposed to work on. So that makes it very, very easy for them to be focused on the target. But it also doesn't limit them to what they are about to do. So they have this sense of control with like a nudge towards what they're expected to do. And a lot of kids feel that they know a lot better what they need to do because of that. And, you know, I've heard some of the teachers that I interview saying also that they became a little bit more responsible and they know what is expected of them a little better. And they stop asking, where do I need to go next? They have that sense, they develop that sense, or they use the system for that. So, yeah. Please fill out the survey if you can. If anybody has any questions in the meantime, please go ahead and ask away. Yes, okay, so here is the survey link once more. Yeah, and we're here. I can stay 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes for you all, but Erin and Beth, thank you so much. If you guys have to go, don't worry about it.
All right, thank you.